Hey, when it comes to investing in your retirement, let's face it, there are basically two different chapters. Chapter 1 is building your wealth, and it's all about figuring out the best places to save. And Chapter 2 is living within your wealth, and that's really all about coordination. How do you bring all these income sources together to produce your best outcome? So it's really kind of like planting a garden, right? Maybe not all of you can relate to that, but I grew up in a nice, modest country home, and my parents forced us to have a vegetable garden. As an adult, now I think vegetable gardens are pretty cool, but I can assure you that as a young child, forced to go out during the hot summer days and pick rocks and pull weeds, that garden felt a little bit more like a torture chamber, but that's probably a whole other story maybe I can save it for my therapist someday. Either way, I think you can get behind the analogy I'm making here. Building your wealth is making sure you plant more than just one thing, because you never know which seeds will grow the best or what type of season you're heading into. Living within your wealth, that next chapter, is all about harvesting that garden. And if you've had growth, then you get to make some fun decisions, like how much do you eat now? How much do you store away for later? Kind of like canning or, for a rainy day, or putting some of that in your freezer. Some people like to put pretty much everything in their freezer, so be careful of that. But if you have more than you need, sometimes you get to consider even giving away to your neighbors. And I've always kind of felt like vegetable gardens are like swimming pools or boats, right? You don't want to necessarily have to have your own, but it sure would be nice to have a neighbor or a close friend that has one. Now, that might be a simplistic way to view it, but food is an essential part of life. For most of us, money is also an essential part of our lives, and we tend to manage it in a very similar way, as I just pointed out. Yet when it comes to money, many of us get so stressed or overwhelmed, especially with so many options. We freeze up or we make poor decisions really without thinking them through. So I'm going to spend a few minutes going through the basics in this video. You'll learn some of the most common places to go ahead and plant those long-term seeds for your financial future, and I'll tell you how to coordinate all those things together when you're about to hit retirement. Now let's go. All right, let's not waste time. And I want to fly through a bunch of income sources with you. And I want you to remember, I want you to think of these items as seeds. Right, going back to that garden thing. You may not have the opportunity to plant all these seeds right now, but you'll see that when you get to the second chapter of your life, living within your wealth, the more growth you have from different things that you've planted, the more flexibility you'll have later in retirement. And flexibility is king in our world, so you'll want as much of it as possible, trust me. Let's go. Personal savings, checking accounts. I think most of us kind of start out in the world with a checking or a savings account, right? I like to think of these as the front door to your total portfolio. Your paycheck usually finds its way to your front door into that account. And from there, you can either pay bills and see that money go out, or you can bring that money into your house, into your wealth, where it goes in your wealth and your portfolio depends on all the things that we're going to talk about, these options here. One important reminder is in 2024, especially when I'm making this video, it no longer makes sense to accumulate a lot of money or cash in your checking or your savings accounts unless you're putting it to work. 5 years ago, these types of accounts were paying 1% or less in interest. Now, many of these places are paying 3, 4, 5% or even higher. So if you're going to keep a bunch of money very liquid and very safe in these types of accounts, please, please, please do yourself a favor. Make sure you're in a safe, interest-bearing account that is competitive. And by that, I mean it's paying you a reasonable amount of interest compared to other places that you could put that money. Next thing up is Social Security benefits. This one's not really much of an option, right? If you live in the U.S. and you're either employed by someone else or you're running your own business, you're very likely already contributing to Social Security right through your paycheck. So basically, the government's creating a pension for you, and you're required to contribute to it each year, whether you like it or not, while you're earning income. And on the other side of that, though, as early as 62, you can begin receiving that monthly payment. Now let's talk about employer-sponsored pension plans. These are retirement plans funded sometimes by employers and sometimes by you, and sometimes both. There are two main types. First, we'll start with defined benefit plans. They promise a specific payment upon retirement, very similar to Social Security I just talked about. And it's through your employer, not Uncle Sam, like Social Security is through Uncle Sam. Defined contribution plans like 401ks, 403bs, profit sharing, many more. This is a very broad category. And the big difference here is that these are very dependent on the amount contributed and the plan's investment performance. Many of these plans will have employer matching, which is a really nice perk that you should be paying attention to because it's kind of considered free money. In other words, if you put a certain amount in, your company will automatically add some of their own money. If you have access to a plan like that, it's almost always a very good decision if you can afford it to at least contribute enough to capture what your employer is willing to match. Final thought on employer-sponsored plans. This is important. Defined benefit plans, the performance of that, and it's very much on the shoulders of the employer, but versus your defined contribution plans where the performance is kind of shifted over to your shoulders as the employee. In other words, if you make poor choices and drastically underperform your expectations, it's not the company's fault, it's your fault. So understand how these work, and if you're participating in these, make sure you know what you're doing, or that you talk to somebody who knows how the plan works, and maybe they can help get set up at least in the right direction. Next, we'll focus on individual retirement accounts, or IRAs. We all know them by. IRAs allow individuals to save money with tax advantages, and there are several types of IRAs, traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, each with their own tax implications and rules about withdrawals. Sometimes you can use IRAs alongside your other retirement accounts, but often you can only do one or the other. There's a lot of factors to consider here and IRS guidelines that we have to abide by. But it's a great example of how good investment advice and good tax advice can help you sort through all that. And it's important to remember because we get asked this question a lot. The I in IRA stands for individual, which means that it cannot be owned jointly. So if your spouse wants to set one up, he or she is welcome to do so, but you can't share ownership of an IRA. Now let's talk about brokerage accounts. Fidelity Investments, Charles Schwab are two of the largest and most popular custodians for opening up a brokerage account. And we like to think of these types of accounts as a giant fish tank. It sounds weird, but hold on. So those companies I just mentioned give you the tank, right? They provide that for you. Then you decide what you put into it. And yours is going to look different than everybody else's. So you can buy stocks, bonds, CDs, mutual funds, ETF, or exchange-traded funds, a whole bunch more. In most cases, a regular brokerage account is taxable. So you need to understand that. If you're investing in something that grows quite a bit in value and then you sell it, some of the proceeds from that sale may very likely be subject to tax, usually capital gains or ordinary income, depending. But these accounts can be super flexible and valuable, especially as they grow over time. So just be careful and remember what I said about the taxable part of those accounts. Next up is annuities. It's a really broad category, especially in today's world, because there are so many different types of annuities. But if I were to use a really simple explanation, I'd probably just say an annuity is a financial product that pays out a fixed income stream of payments to an individual, typically used as an income stream for retirees. Annuities are purchased from an insurance company and can be structured to provide payments for a fixed period of time or for the lifetime of an individual. And like any other item on this list, annuities can be a great fit when they are used in the right place and for the right amount. The bells and whistles that usually come with these types of annuities can kind of be overwhelming and confusing. But again, if you're looking for a certain type of protection to be wrapped around a portion of your wealth, and if you use the right annuity to do it, it can be a welcome fit inside your overall larger portfolio. Now let's move on to real estate. Where do I start with real estate? I think for this video, I'll just keep it really simple. Income from renting out property or from selling real estate investments can provide a significant source of retirement income. And that sounds quite simple on the surface, but there is much to recognize when it comes to real estate. You need to think about your actual participation or level of involvement. And I know from being a landlord for over 25 years that owning real estate reminds me of being a parent to my kids. Just when you think everything's going smooth and according to plan, you get that phone call, some emergency, something broke, no more plan. But there are many ways that you can handle those types of emergency with real estate. You can do it yourself if you have those skill sets, or you can outsource it to a management company, or you can even do more passive investing by putting your money into a vehicle such as a REIT, a real estate investment trust. For this video, though, just keep in mind that if you're going to dip your toe into real estate, it's first best to understand what level of participation you want to have. Then you could start to look at the appropriate options for you. Now let's talk about part-time work or side hustle. It's kind of what that's being called now if you're a big Gary Vee fan like I am. In today's world, though, side hustles are kind of looked in a different way than when I grew up. They used to be about having another job, which had different hours from your main job, and you would work your normal day shift and then hurry over to your second job for long hours there. But usually it was a nice short-term gig because you'd end up burning your candle on both ends and exhausting yourself. But it was a great way to save extra money, usually for kind of extra perks for your family or to pay off debts. And in today's world, though, there are many people who are using their nights and their weekends to establish an online business or a business that doesn't really have set hours, but instead it's kind of paid by project or for a specific result. Either way, though, using these part-time options can be extremely helpful for building your wealth because it might allow you to redirect some or all of that income into longer-term investment opportunities, right? Whether investing it back in your business or some of these other categories that I'm talking about in this video, if you have access and the passion to put forth the effort here, it really has the potential to accelerate your growth and solidify your financial future. And here's a secret tip. If you're heading into retirement, part-time work is a fantastic way to help supplement your income and ease yourself into retirement. Now, I can run this list out much further by covering stuff like life insurance, which sometimes has cash value in it, cryptocurrency, which has been a volatile topic over the past number of years, even small business if you own your own company and you look to build it up more and eventually to sell it. I don't want you, though, to get too distracted from the main message I'm trying to send in this video, which is understanding which stage of life you're in now, planting the right amount of seeds into the right places, and then knowing how to harvest and benefit from all that hard work that you've already done. Now bring that effort all together into one plan, using all the resources that you planted and put into motion, coming together in a seamless income stream for you that focuses on the right balance of risk, return, taxation, and that lasts a lifetime. Those are all things that we're asked to do for our clients as they get ready to switch from building their wealth to living within their wealth. The first step is to answer the question of when. When can I retire? From there, we look at different variables. We look at those seeds that you planted and what they're worth today and what we think they'll look like as time progresses. We also look at when we'll take income from each of these sources in hopes to keep your cash flow where you need it to be to do the things you want to do in retirement, while at the same time trying to minimize the amount of taxes you'll owe in any given year. And working with you to stretch your money as far as you can take it within reason. In most cases, our clients want to extend their wealth even past themselves and see that it gets to their kids and their grandkids. Whatever you're looking for, we have the tools to help you plan for it. Just remember, if you're ready to really start looking at these things, give us a call. If you're looking for guidance, we do this stuff a lot. We love making it easy for you, to see your future and to empower yourself through education and confidence. Let's go.